Madison Square Garden? Look, this isn't just another fight. This isn't just another main event. This is about legacy. This is where champions become legends, and we are looking at one of the most compelling, high-stakes super fights the UFC has ever put together. We have to dive into this, because what we're about to witness is, well, it's nothing short of a collision of destiny.
Just let that sink in for a second. Those were the words of the great Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. That wasn't a hope, it wasn't a dream, it was a prophecy. For years, this was the plan. The torch passed from one Dagestani king to the next. And for Islam Makhachev, this fight, it's not just for a second belt, it's the final validation of his mentor's entire master plan.
Because on the other side of that octagon stands a man who had no prophecy, no preordained path to greatness, a man who had to carve his own destiny with his bare hands all the way from Perth, Australia. Two men, two completely different journeys, are about to meet right in the middle of that cage for everything.
To really grasp the weight of this moment, you gotta understand where these two warriors come from. This is the classic story, right? The established pound-for-pound king on a quest for all-time greatness versus the hungry new champion who fought tooth and nail just to get a seat at the table.
And this right here, this just illustrates the contrast perfectly. On one side, you've got Islam Makhachev, the heir apparent. He's a student of MMA royalty, literally molded by Khabib and his father. He was always supposed to be here. On the other side, you got Jack Della Maddalena, the silent assassin. The kid who was wrestling with his brother in their house, who clawed his way up from the Contender Series. Nothing was ever handed to this guy.
I mean, when you break down what Islam has already accomplished, it is absolutely staggering. He has carried the weight of an entire nation on his shoulders and has never buckled. He's got the record for title defenses at lightweight, he's the pound-for-pound #1, and he's not just winning, he's dominating people. He's done everything there is to do at 155. This move to 170, this is for history. This is a pure legacy play.
And if you think that's just some fighter talk, you don't get the man. That's not an exaggeration. This quote tells you everything about his mindset. From the time he was just a boy training in the mountains of Dagestan, every single day of his life has been in service of this moment, becoming a two-division champion and cementing his name among the greatest to ever do it.
And then you have Jack. Just think about this journey for a second. From the Contender Series, where you're literally just fighting for a contract, to becoming the first ever champion from Perth, Western Australia. He's an outstanding sniper, a guy whose boxing is so clean, so precise, it's like watching an artist at work. He took the belt from Bilal Muhammad, one of the toughest wrestlers in the division, and proved to everyone he belongs at the very top.
And this quote right here, man, this tells you everything about his mindset. When he won that title, there was no shock, no crazy, over-the-top celebration. It was just confirmation. This is a man who always believed he would be here, even when nobody else did. He saw it in his mind, and now it's all playing out just like he thought it would.
Okay, story time is over. Let's get down to the brass tacks. This is where the fight is won and lost. The hype is real, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to a tactical war, a violent chess match between two of the best martial artists on the entire planet. This is the question on every single fan's mind. You know, it's the classic striker versus grappler matchup, but it's so much more than that. Both of these guys are elite everywhere. So let's break down exactly how each man gets his hand raised.
It's all laid out right here. Islam's path to victory is crystal clear. Overwhelming grappling. He needs to apply that suffocating pressure, find the perfect entry for a takedown, and then start that soul-crushing chain wrestling. For Jack, it's the exact opposite. He has to keep this fight on the feet, stuff those takedowns, and land his laser-accurate counters. But here's the million-dollar question for both of them. Look at the vulnerabilities. For Islam, how is his cardio and strength going to hold up in his first real test at 170 pounds? And for Jack, can his takedown defense really survive for 25 minutes against a monster like Makhachev?
This is Islam's blueprint, and trust me, it's like watching a python. He stalks his prey, applies constant, suffocating pressure, and then he just waits for that one small mistake. Once he times that entry and gets his hands on you, it's pretty much a wrap. The chain wrestling starts. One attempt just flows into the next. He gives you no space to breathe. Then he secures top control, and he will find the finish. He breaks his opponent's will before he even breaks their bodies.
But Jack has a blueprint of his own. It's the sniper's game. He has to be the matador to Islam's bull. He has to control that distance with his footwork, he has to defend that initial takedown, and then he has to make Islam pay for every single attempt. He rips the body with that vicious left hook to drain the gas tank, and he waits for that one perfect counter shot. His entire game is built on methodically breaking his opponents down on the feet.
Super fights like this aren't just about game plans. They are decided by single moments, those intangible qualities, the X factors that can turn the tide in a split second. This is where the tension really starts to build.
When you boil it all down, this entire war really comes down to 3 key battles. Can Shaq's takedown defense, which looked better than ever against Bilal, actually hold up? Can Islam impose his will with that suffocating top control against a bigger, stronger man? And can Shaq's insane striking accuracy find a home before Islam can close that distance? Whoever wins these battles wins the war. Simple as that.
Seriously, just picture it for a second. The electricity in Madison Square Garden. Islam is pressuring forward, and for just a split second, he leaves his chin exposed. Jack pivots, fires that perfect left hook, and the pound-for-pound king goes down. The sound? The sound would be deafening. That is the explosive fight-ending potential Jack brings to the table.
Now imagine the opposite. The crowd is going nuts for Jack, and then it happens. Islam shoots, changes levels, and secures that first takedown. And a chilling silence just falls over the entire arena. It's that feeling of inevitability. The python has his grip, and every single person in that building knows what's coming next. That's the dread Islam inspires when he gets you to the ground.
All right, we've broken down the paths, the tactics, the X factors. Now it's time for my final call. And listen, this isn't just about logic. In a fight this big, sometimes you gotta go with your gut. So here we are, grappling dynasty versus striking phenom. Look, my head tells me that the Dagestani wrestling is a force of nature, that it's a puzzle that nobody has ever truly solved. But my gut sees something in Jack Della Maddalena. I see the composure, the belief, the sniper-like accuracy that can change a fight with one single shot. I believe his takedown defense is good enough to survive the early storms, and as this fight gets into those championship rounds, I think he's going to find the opening he needs. I'm picking the upset. I'm picking Jack Della Maddalena.
Because in the end, it all comes down to this. One moment, one mistake, one perfect shot. In a fight between two killers at this level, that is all it takes to change absolutely everything.
That's the beautiful and the brutal truth of this sport. When that cage door locks, one man will cement his legacy as a 2-division champion and all-time great. And the other man's dream will be shattered under the bright lights of MSG. There is no middle ground.
So that's my tick. That's my breakdown. But now I'm turning it over to you. Does the prophecy get fulfilled, or does the silent assassin from Perth shock the world? Who leaves Madison Square Garden with the gold? Let me know your pick down in the comments. I can't wait to see this one go down.